Meanwhile, we'll begin with Mangalasana, as always. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-Nishtam Sthapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadamayam Sadani Swahamikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuddhaparakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagunatam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Sarvabhutam Vadijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagunalalita Shri Vishakam Shri Krishna Karnasindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikanta Radhakanta Mose Taptakanshana Murari Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwamanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpatarushyasya Kripa-sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Vishnu Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madhva-veera Vigopala Svipuryat Hridayayati Tadaivasam Mayaha Pitva Krishketus Tatviyajanaha Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, great Acharya and Bhagavatam commentator in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He has praised the end of his commentary on the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Lord Gopal, only if you accept my words to be like your cows, will they provide sweet milk and give pleasure to your pure devotees. So I'm praying in the same way. I didn't have any particular topic chosen for tonight, but maybe if our host wants any particular thing you want to hear.
You can pick up anything.
Okay, well, then I'm like a kid in a candy shop. We can begin where Krishna begins, because one of the fundamental lessons of Bhagavad Gita is the difference between what's real and what's false. And so I'm going to read from chapter 2, text number 16. Na sato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha ubhayorapi trishkam tasvanayos tattvadarshidhi. That means that those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance. And of the eternal, that is the soul, there is no change. This they concluded by studying the nature of both. Purport, that means the commentary, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He says, there is no endurance of the changing body. Have you noticed? There's no endurance of the changing body. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But The spirit, soul, exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever-changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and personalist. In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotingsi Vishnur Bhavanani Vishnu. The words existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the reestablishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. The difference between oneself and the Supreme being understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. In the Vedanta Sutras, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature, as it will be revealed in the 7th chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance. And to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. Now, we've all read different editions of Bhagavad Gita, is that correct? Raise your hand if you've read Bhagavad Gita before. Some people have read Bhagavad Gita, some people are too shy to raise their hands. I myself read many editions of Bhagavad Gita when I was very young. I was only 13, 14, and I was interested in these things. And I have to admit now that I could not understand any of those editions of Bhagavad Gita that I read. There's a reason that I couldn't understand them. The reason is that the publishers also didn't understand them. Why? Because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what am I thinking of? Evam parampara praptam, evam rajarshyo viduhu. So many rajarshis in the past, they understood this teaching because it comes in parampara. If you take it outside of the parampara, you say something other than what the great acharyas have said, immediately useless. So that's the problem. 90% of the Bhagavad Gitas, I won't say 90%, I'll say 99% of the Bhagavad Gita, so-called Bhagavad Gitas that you find in the market nowadays, is written by somebody who has a personal agenda to fulfill. He wants to build a yoga empire. He wants to twist his own message out of the Bhagavad Gita. He wants to use it for social activism. He wants to make money only. Whatever the reason. He's a literary man. He wants to speak beautiful poetry. These personalities are there. But actually, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita itself, this thing has to be accepted in parampara. And bhaktosi me sakhacheti rahasyam hi taduttamam. Elsewhere he tells Arjuna that you can understand this. Why? Because you're my devotee. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan nishtasmi tatvataha. This is what Krishna says himself. These are not my words. This is not ISKCON dogma. This is the words of the Bhagavad Gita that we should understand very clearly. And more than once, Krishna says the same thing. Where else does he say the same thing? You want to understand me as I am? The way to do it is through bhakti. So I was going to say, there are many editions of Bhagavad Gita, and there are many ways to interpret Bhagavad Gita. People have interpreted Bhagavad Gita in multiple ways. But everybody agrees about one thing, and that is that at the end of this discussion in Bhagavad Gita, what is Arjuna going to do?
Fight.
He's going to fight. Everything comes to this conclusion, practical conclusion. Do what Krishna says. Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight, and he's not giving him a comfortable instruction. Who does he have to fight? By strange fate. He has to fight his own family members. And Krishna is telling him, kill them. Not an easy instruction to follow. Anyway, we're not there yet, but the point is that if we want to understand anything from Bhagavad Gita, we have to hear the actual Bhagavad Gita. When I first saw this title, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Hindi mein yatharup ko bolte hain na, Bhagavad Gita yatharup. Same thing. Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I thought, oh, who does he think he is? Well, there's so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, why his is so special? Then I read the Bhagavad Gita, and then for the first time I could understand something. इसका मतलब है कि इस भगवद गीता में ही कोई विशेष शक्ति होगी कि thousands of people have changed their lives as a result of hearing the actual thing. एवं परंपरा प्राप्त. So, this is Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we have only to hear. One of the most lectured upon verses by our society's founder and Acharya Srila Prabhupada is which verse?
71.
He knows right away. This man reads Prabhupada's books assiduously, as we all should. Chapter 7, text number 1, and just for your information, if you're not familiar, very famous among devotees. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Mukunda Vacha nahi. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Mai asakta manaha partha yogam yunjan manashrayah asamshrayam samagram mam yatha jnasasi tatshrino. This is the point. What does it mean? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now here, O Samprita, how? By practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. In other words, he's saying, dear Partha, if your mind is fixed on me, and you are engaged in yoga having taken shelter of me, and to the degree that you want to understand me, really, without any doubt and in full, simply listen. Just listen. Tatshrino. Just listen to the message. How do we listen? We don't listen with a challenging attitude. We listen with an open mind. What is he saying here? You cannot learn everything from just anybody at all. But you can learn something from just anyone at all. That we should keep in mind. Jains. Anybody here from a Jain family? Maybe not. Jains, the Jain philosophy has an interesting concept. What do they call it? They call it Syadvada. Syad. In Sanskrit, the word Syad means it might be. Syadvada. The philosophy, it might be so. So they keep an open mind that let me hear what this person is saying. Maybe he's saying something that's going to benefit me. This is how we hear. And we've already discussed, Krishna has already discussed, he's already clarified, you have to hear from the right source. You cannot hear Bhagavad Gita just from, the guy down the street or from anybody and everybody on the internet, or, no, you have to hear it through Parampara. So this is why in every bona fide edition of Bhagavad Gita, we will see that in the beginning there is a list of the Guru Parampara so that you know what you're getting in from home. And Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita is not any different than that. He also gives his Guru Parampara in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. That's why I said we're talking about to be very explicit, Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaishnava, Sampradaya. The teaching is given to Lord Brahma by Krishna himself. Brahma is the engineer of this universe, you can say. And from him it comes down through Vyasadeva. It's received by Madhvacharya. Anyone here from South India? Would it be Mangalore, Karnataka? You know Madhvacharya. So, and then from Madhvacharya it was given to the devotees who later on became the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. There are other Sampradayas. Sri Sampradaya, very famous in Tamil Nadu still. And Kumar Sampradaya in Vrindavan, you can still find them. Nimbarka also. These are other Sampradayas. They're valid. How do we know they're valid? They're mentioned in the Shastra. Which Shastra? Padma Purana. So, Sampradaya Vihinaye Mantraste Nispalanata. If you receive any mantra, or in this case any teaching, from outside a bona fide Guru Parampara, no guarantees. You may learn something good, you may not learn something good. But if you hear from somebody who is connected in a bona fide Sampradaya and who actually represents that Sampradaya, this is another thing. You can't just hear. I mean, it begins with hearing, certainly. But what happens after you hear? There's other aspects. Krishna in chapter 4, text number 10, talks about the austerity of knowledge. Jnana tapasya. What is austere about knowledge? Why is knowledge an austerity?
With it comes responsibility.
Very good. First of all, you have to open the book and actually read it. That's a little difficult for us because in 2026, the only book anyone reads is Facebook. It's like all we can do to open a book about Python or something like that. Do they still have Python? I don't know. It's changing so fast nowadays. But, you have to read it. Bhagavad Gita as it is doesn't mean shrink wrapped and left on the shelf as it is. No. It means you have to take the difficulty of opening the book and actually studying it and trying to understand it. Yatha-jnasasita chmino. Krishna has already said this. Then, once you've read and understood what's being presented, then you have some choices to make, don't you? Yes. Krishna says, for example, everyone eats, right? What does he say about eating? Even if you're a vegetarian, and how many people are vegetarians nowadays? Not so many. Even in Tamil Nadu, where I spend a lot of time, I'm told that now it's 93% non-vegetarian. Tamil Nadu, so-called bastion of Hindu culture. They see themselves as the vanguards of, orthodoxy. So, Krishna says, you are eating sin only. If we just cook for ourselves, not for ourselves, if we cook for ourselves, we're cooking for Sodom and offering it, but we're cooking for our tongues. And if we just do that, then he says, you're eating sin, he says. And what kind of sin? Agham papam, bad sins. These are not my words. Again, this is not Gaudiya Vaishnava doctrine. These are the words of Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, you can look them up yourself. So, along with understanding what we have heard from Bhagavad Gita, there is an obligation. What am I going to do about this? I have to make some choices. That's the secondary aspect of knowledge. This explanation for your information is coming from Ramanujacharya first, and then everybody who follows after him. And most of them follow after Ramanuja. He's pretty old, at least 1,000 years ago. So the first austerity of knowledge, you have to acquire it. The second thing, you have to act upon what you've heard. And tertiary austerity of knowledge, what could that be? You've acted upon it, you've learned something, you've acted upon that, you've realized it thereby, and what do you have to do? You have to give it to somebody, because what is the use of knowledge if it doesn't benefit anyone? Bhagavad Gita is spoken for this purpose. What does Krishna say? We all know the verses, but how much do we think about them? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. What's the next half? Tadatmanam shidami aham. Krishna says, I count myself at that time that I see there is a need to reestablish dharma. This is why he comes here. To benefit us. So this is the tertiary austerity of knowledge. So these are some things we can think about with regards to Bhagavad Gita, and in particular Bhagavad Gita as it is. But we're just talking about the difference between reality and illusion. Who has learned this now, this afternoon? Somebody raise your hand and tell me, what is the difference between what's real and what's false? That should be clear by now, I hope. We've read it in the verse. No, initiated people don't count. No one from this side of the room? Okay, let me read this again. I'm going to give my own kind of summary here. Nasate vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha. Things that exist, in fact, they don't end. And things that do not exist, they can't endure. That's it. If it's eternal, that means it's real, it's truth. If it's temporary, that means it's not real, it's false. Think about it. If you have this understanding, that changes a lot of priorities right off the bat, doesn't it? Is our body forever? Were you here 100 years ago, anyone? Will you be here in another 200 years? Kahan se aaya? Kahan janega? So this is the idea. We don't know who we are. We don't know anything about ourselves. We're in ignorance. And we get this knowledge again from the Tattvadarshis, people who actually see the truth. These are called acharyas. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's right off the bat, that's the first thing he's saying, one of the first things at least. Because Arjuna is displaying his ignorance in front of the Supreme Lord. That, I don't know if, what happens if I kill all these people, then I can enjoy the kingdom. Well, what's the point if I can't even enjoy it with my family? And this is the concerns of persons who are wrapped up in a bodily misconception of life. Ahankara. And Krishna right away chastises him and says, no, you're not thinking. So there is a lot that is considered to be austere in the Bhagavad Gita, things that are not comfortable to do. Back in the Upanishads, we have two categories that are given, two Sanskrit words that you may know what they mean. Preya, preyas, that is, and shreyas, right? Preyas. What does preyas mean? What is priya? That's preyas. What about shreyas? It's not a famous singer. Shreya.
Ultimately beneficial. Ultimately beneficial.
Yeah, super excellent thing. But we always have to make a choice, something that's immediately appealing. Just like when we're children, if we were left to our own devices, we would only eat gulab jamun. But that's not healthy, and our parents know that. And so they have to train us. And sometimes they have to know, you can't have that, you have to eat your vegetables, right? We all went through it. So that's the difference between preyas and shreyas. Shreyas means we have an obligation to seek that which is super excellent because we have the facility to do so. Not every other species has this opportunity. What is that famous verse? Ahara nidra payamaitaram cha. We all go around eating, sleeping, mating, defending. just like the animals do. But there's one thing that only the humans can do that the animals cannot do. What is that? Not eating. Animals are eating. Thinking? No, animals are definitely thinking.
Seeking spiritual knowledge.
They're thinking about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So if our minds are eaten up by that concern, we're no better than animals. Dharmasya hina pashubhisamana. Hitopadesh tells us. If you take out dharma from a human being's life, immediately he becomes an animal, or she becomes an animal. So this is the unique characteristic of human life. And what makes dharma possible? What makes dharma valuable? Because only if you are situated in dharma, you can understand this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. A sinful person cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. We have experience of this. Anyone who distributes books, these gentlemen can all confirm. You know, if you're dealing with people who are clearly sinful, it's very difficult for them to understand anything you're saying. And it does not only here in where are we, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's here. It's like the same thing holds true in Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai. It doesn't matter where you're from. If a person is sinful, they will not be able to understand the subtlety of the words that I'm speaking right now. So this is the austerity of knowledge. To share with such persons, it's not easy because it's not always a receptive audience. And we have to, actually Srila Prabhupada told us, our spiritual master told us, you have to be prepared to shed gallons of your own blood just to deliver one other person. Any doctors here? Someone who can tell me? How many gallons of blood are there in a human body? Only 2 or 3 liters as far as I know. Right? You don't have gallons of blood to shed, so what does it mean? You really, really have to put out. That's why it's an austerity. You have to learn things that you're not comfortable learning, all new things that, think about what we have to go through. I'm speaking of myself. I had to learn several new languages to get this, right? And you people already know most of this stuff. So it's an austerity to acquire the knowledge. It's an austerity to make radical changes to your lifestyle. Because if you do nothing but flow downstream in today's society, you're definitely going into sinful activity. That is the trajectory. You'll end up in KFC, you'll end up in some, Las Vegas or whatever happens, I don't know. You have to be discriminate. And that is what it means to be a human being. And then finally, when you actually appreciate, when you assimilate, when you practice and even realize these teachings to any degree, then you have to share it with others. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ne kaha ki jare dekhe kare kaha Krishna upadesh amar agnai guru hai kare desh. Bengali. He says, anybody, especially Bharata Bhumi te hoilo manusya janajar janma sharva kari karo parubakar. If you're born in India, you have to take advantage of this, assimilate this teaching that you have received from your predecessors, forefathers, and then do something for the rest of the world. Everybody sees the IT engineers. They go to Chilikulu, they get the visa from Balaji, they come to, these suburbs like I don't know what this suburb's, Shady Grove or something is called, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, by the grace of Balaji, visa Balaji. And then, what do? They bank money. What do you give people? What do you do for other people? That's why people see India as a poor country. They just come in and take. What are you giving? Prabhupada said, I didn't come to take. I came to give. He didn't ask us for any money. He was only giving us, and only for our benefit, not his. He's going to go on. He already has gone on now. Since 1977, he passed from this world. You know, what we do with this wisdom, it's not going to hurt anybody else. Think about your own future. Think about Shreyas for a change. Put something else into your tank. Because Baladev Vidyabhushan explains in chapter 17, the first few verses of chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita. There are two kinds of Shraddha. What does Shraddha mean? Faith. Nishtha. One is that faith that you have inherited as a result of your socialization, your birth and how you were raised, etc. The other is that kind of faith that you've cultivated by careful study and accepting satsanga in this world, in this life. He said, the first one is going to be, maybe it's sattvic, maybe it's rajasic, maybe it's tamasic, we don't know. But the second one is always sattvic. And that's what we have to cultivate while we can. I used to be in Seattle, and the devotees there had printed up these little cards that we distribute. It shows Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. What is that mantra? We were chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then there was a caption underneath. You know what the caption said? Please chant this mantra while you can. I think Hogan and Chuckman must put that together. It's supposed to spur your intelligence. So, wait a minute, why did you say it like that? You don't have all the time in the world. Human life is a short window of opportunity. How short? 80 years maybe? 70 years? My uncle only made it 40 years. He came home from work one day, like we all do. He sat down with a newspaper and a cup of coffee, and his heart exploded, and he was gone before he even knew what hit him. It can happen. There are no guarantees. Or because, I don't know what the crime rate is in Murphy's-World, but if you're living in Los Angeles or New York, or they carjacking and this kind of thing, or the Chinese are importing fentanyl and all this other stuff. You don't have a long time. This is the point. So take advantage while you can. What's another example? If you're in a lift, we call them elevators here, and you come to a particular floor and the door opens for some time, how long is that door going to stay open? Just a few seconds, not even a minute maybe. So it's understood that most people have a plan. Most people make a decision to get out of the elevator, right? And they go about their business. But if you do nothing, you are going to go whatever buttons have been pushed, and you've lost your opportunity, correct? So human life is just like that. This thing is going on. You're also going on, but you're going on akela. You can't take anything with you. Very nice verse from the Subhashita Sangraha. It says, what is that? Dhanani bhumau pashavashta goshte nari grihatvare janahas vashane dehashchitayam paraloka marge karmanugo vachati jiva ekaha. Those who understand, it's pretty simple Sanskrit. It means your money is going to stay in the bank, your car is going to stay in the garage. If she understands religious principles, your wife will not come to the funeral, she'll stay at home. That is the injunction of Shastra. Your friends will come to your funeral, even if they don't really want to, but out of etiquette they will. And your body will go all the way to the fire. But you, sir, you're going on alone. And you can't take anything with you. And there's no guarantee when. Now, you have a few moments of opportunity. That's how we say you have a few years of opportunity. We have productive years, maybe 20 or 30 of them in the middle of our life. When we're young, we're just bala, foolish. And when we're, in full-fledged youth, we're just thinking about the other side, right? And then, in the old age, we're just so beset with anxieties and problems, we can't really, and you can't learn anything at that age either. So the real time is right now. We have to do something now. if you're serious about it. Therefore, he says, if you're really serious, you want to know, full, free from doubt, just hear something. So this is what we have to hear. And it begins here in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. This is just one principle on which the rest of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita is based. The difference between matter and spirit means the difference between what's real and what's false. The difference between what's eternal, what's temporary. So I'm going to stop here, but if anybody has any questions or any comments, did you raise your hand?
Yes, thank you so much. So I wanted to ask you to elaborate, please, a little on gaining the knowledge, going out and getting it. Before we can get it, we've got to assimilate it. We have to serve. And Srila Prabhupada set up these institutions so that we could do bona fide service. So all around the world, we've got temples. I'm from Aurora Seva. This is a temple that Srila Prabhupada established in 1975. This is a temple begging to be served. And that is our point, right? It is to serve Krishna. If we go to Goloka Vrindavan, first of all, that means we've been protecting cows, right, to get to Goloka Vrindavan. And second,
Goloka means cow world, after all.
Right. So, and second, are we going to go serve Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan if we're not serving Krishna here in the temples he established? So we have so many projects where we can multiply, and spread this movement, but we cannot think that we will be successful, in my humble opinion, if we ignore, neglect the projects that Srila Prabhupada established for us and the mood that he established. And he very much established the mood of coming to, sometimes we have to drive a good ways. But we can do that. So there's service waiting, and will you explain, are we going to be able to share the knowledge? Have we assimilated it if we're not serving?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice comments. This is, I think, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was intimating when he said, Janma sarthak pari koroparapapara. In most Indo-Aryan languages, you have a subordinate verb and a finite verb. So, Janma sarthak pari, it's understood, this is preliminary to the main verb, which is to do good for others. First, you have to have something. You can't give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. Say it. You can't give what you don't have. So, Janma sarthak pari means assimilate. And that means practice. And a big part of that practice, as he pointed out, Srila Prabhupada, one scholar added up all the stats, and he came to the conclusion that Srila Prabhupada gave roughly 80% of the instructions that he gave on Varnashram Dharma in the last 3 years that he was with us. That's very telling, isn't it? It means he was very serious about this simple living, hygiene, cow protection, etc., following Dharma. So, these are preliminary matters, primary matters. Thank you for your comment. Anything else? No? Everyone perfect? No question. Okay. Now I'll open it up for initiated devotees to comment.